How about that, Tom? What do you know? The mainstream media is now reporting that Hunter Biden's laptop is, in fact, real. Dragging their feet until after Joe Biden was elected president may do serious damage to the image of those media outlets as trustworthy. And then Facebook banning the story, that raises serious eyebrows and questions about how much you believe what you're reading on Facebook and other social media. But what really bothers me is all of the intelligence officers and experts who discredited this story as Russian propaganda. People like former National Intelligence Director James Clapper. Joining us now is Roshini Rajkumar, who's a political strategist. Roshini, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks, guys. Wonderful to be with you.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. I don't know who are you more angry at, the mainstream media, Facebook, or intelligence experts?
There are a lot of layers of ick to this story, Kevin, as you both have described. It is scary for me that, first of all, the intelligence agencies, that really hurts their credibility overall. Right now, as we watch the events between Russia and Ukraine and the world involvement in that, and we are supposed to take our intelligence experts seriously, after something like this, which seems pretty low-key, got botched, right? And then I'm very concerned as a former TV reporter that social media outlets are part of this debauchery. Where are we with freedom of speech and these tech companies thinking they can censor and they can prevent the American people from, really reading things and then discerning with their own brains? So there are a lot of things that are really fishy here. And I think many of us were questioning this when something this huge, these terrible headlines were coming out in the 2020 election. And people who are Biden fans didn't want to believe it, but there just were so many different kinds of things happening and lines coming out that, I thought at least it needed to be investigated. I didn't think it should have been just summarily dismissed.
Yeah, intelligence should be nonpartisan. National security should be nonpartisan. Now that it's coming out, the New York Times and others have said that it is, in fact, Hunter Biden's laptop. Do you think there will be a thorough investigation into what Hunter Biden did and possibly what Joe Biden knew?
Well, I would like to think so, Kevin, but I'm wondering who does that investigation? When we're questioning the government, we're questioning the media, we're questioning law enforcement. Who actually has the credibility to investigate this? That's really what's been crossing my mind as the latest headlines have been coming out these last few days.
Yeah, maybe it's a John Durham, but then that takes several years to complete. The original New York Post story, it alleged that then Vice President Joe Biden met with Hunter Biden's business partner, essentially the executive from Burisma. That's the Ukrainian energy firm on which Hunter Biden sat on the board. Joe Biden had denied that he ever involved himself with Hunter Biden's business dealings, but the laptop really did seem to show otherwise, that Joe Biden not only met with him, but may have benefited financially. But the media at the time, they didn't want to even look at this. Normally, when there's at least a hint of this type of conflict of interest, a reporter would at least sniff around a bit. That wouldn't happen, did it? It was just a frustrating thing to observe.
Tom, it was stunning. And, we learn in law school that even the appearance of a conflict can be as bad as a true conflict of interest. And when those kinds of accusations were coming out in 2020, I was really stunned that there was not more investigation into that. And, a sitting senator, former vice president of the United States, it's absolutely just beyond the scope of sanity that he would get involved with anything that anybody he knows, especially his son, is doing in a foreign country. So what seems especially fishy to me now, as we are involved or at least watching what's happening in Ukraine, sending aid and things like that, how far back did this go, this connection with our current president and what's happening now between Russia and the Ukraine?
What do you think is it that now suddenly it's more believed, this Hunter Biden laptop story, because the New York Times is reporting the authenticity of the laptop? Do they have any additional information than what we had or what the New York Post had a year and a half ago?
I seriously doubt it. I feel like they're just finally looking into it. But here's my theory, Tom and Kevin. The president's popularity is pretty low right now. His approval numbers are not that great for a sitting president. And there are so many major world events happening. We're wondering, what are we going to actually define this pandemic? Many are saying it's not a pandemic anymore. So there's almost like there needs to be a shift in where our focus goes. And I don't really put it past either party to turn on their own leaders. So there is a case to be made that they, there could be some, both sides of the aisle, but even the Democrats that want President Biden discredited in some way to set up for 2024. I mean, it's a theory, but we have seen so many things happen in the last 4 to 6 years in our country that I think almost anything could go right now. Very troubling to me just as a citizen, but as a strategist, I've got to look at all the different angles on this.
If we go back in time and look at how close this election was between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and at the time, Joe Biden was actually put out there as a victim of a conspiracy. People may have felt for him. If instead he was actually under investigation for what he may have known about what was in Hunter Biden's laptop, do you think that could have been enough to actually turn the election?
Oh, I think so. And I do think the Democrats were worried about that, including Biden's camp. So, let's just go back to 2015, 2016. Remember Hillary's emails and all of that. And many say that could have turned the election for her when the then head of the FBI is coming out talking about those. So it is just, this is where the fourth estate is so needed, Kevin and Tom. We need to have true journalists do journalism, not be partisan, and really dig up what the facts are, not after the fact, but when allegations are actually coming out.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that the media is culpable in this. One of the reasons cited from NPR back then that this was ignored was that the Hunter Biden laptop story was false was because Rupert Murdoch owns the New York Post and he supported Trump. Well, that was enough for some to claim it's a false story. Yet Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post and he hates Donald Trump. And that same standard is not held for them, is it?
Yeah, and Tom, that kind of logic really makes it look like some in the media do side with the DFL.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gosh, it was concerning. At least something is coming out now. It's not to the degree that it should have come out back in October of 2020. But we appreciate your perspective as always, Roshini Rajkumar, political strategist. Thanks for your time.